The House of Representatives passing the second batch of 6 appropriations bills to fund the government through fiscal year 2024. The package now being debated in the Senate as House members from both the left and the right opposing those bills, and GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene filing a motion to vacate the speakership. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez joins us live now from the Capitol. Good evening, Luis. What can you tell us about these latest developments?
Good evening, Steve. As you just mentioned, the House of Representatives passed earlier this morning the second batch of 6 appropriation bills to fund government through fiscal year 2024. 286 congressmen voted in favor of this legislation, and 134 congressmen voted against. That's over 20 Democrats opposed this funding package, mostly because it reduced funding to the United Nations, in particular to the Palestinian refugee program, UNRWA, and also over 100 Republicans voted against this funding package. Steve, earlier today I spoke with Freedom Caucus Chairman Congressman Bob Good, and he said this about the funding package. Let's listen.
I think those are mistakes. I think the bill's a mistake. I think failure to require border security to fund this government. We're giving $3 billion more to the Department of Homeland Security. We're giving $3 billion more to Mayorkas to facilitate the border invasion. So it's a bad bill, it's a bad process, and it is a failure of leadership.
So right after casting her vote, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took to the steps of Capitol Hill to announce that she had introduced a motion to vacate the speakership, a motion to oust Speaker Mike Johnson. Let's listen to what Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say about this.
Today I filed a motion to vacate after Speaker Johnson has betrayed our conference and broken our rules. We were promised regular order. That's what our conference had started out as, with rules and promises to the American people that we would bring regular order back to Congress. This is a betrayal of the American people. This is a betrayal of Republican voters.
So, Luis, if you can hear me, I mean, great job catching up with those members of Congress. Strong words there coming from the Congresswoman from Georgia. If her motion to vacate the speakership succeeds, Johnson will be the second speaker to be ousted in less than a year. Why does Congresswoman Greene say that Speaker Johnson has actually betrayed Republicans?
Of course, Steve. Well, one of the things Freedom Caucus members had been requesting from House Republican leadership was to have a minimum of 72 hours to review a bill before voting on it. But Speaker Johnson put the funding package to a vote 36 hours after presenting the bills to lawmakers. So they had very little time to read over 1,000 pages of funding package to vote on $1.2 trillion of federal spending. Freedom Caucus members had also fought hard to gain positions in the Rules Committee. But Speaker Mike Johnson put the funding package to a vote under suspension of the rules, thus bypassing the conservatives in the Rules Committee. And lastly, but not least importantly, Freedom Caucus members had been requesting since the beginning of the appropriations process to see 12 standalone appropriation bills instead of what they saw today, which was one big package with 6 appropriation bills totaling $1.2 trillion. So the motion to vacate won't be discussed, Steve, until Congress reconvenes after Easter break. That's in 2 weeks. But the funding package has passed to the Senate floor, where it's being right now discussed. Some senators wanting to meet the midnight deadline and avert a partial government shutdown. Other senators, like Republican Mike Lee from Utah and Rand Paul from Kentucky, have already signaled that they want to request amendments and will hold the process in the Senate floor. So a government shutdown is still a possibility, Steve.
And today's Luis Martinez live from the Capitol. Thank you, Luis. And House Republicans' razor-thin majority will be getting even slimmer next month. Congressman Mike Gallagher today announcing he'll be stepping down before the end of his term on April 19th. His seat will stay empty until a winner is declared in the upcoming election in November. Gallagher currently chairs the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. And in a statement on X, he said House Speaker Mike Johnson will appoint a new chairman to fill that role. In the 2024 presidential race now officially entering general election campaign mode. Across major swing states, recent polling showing former President Trump gaining momentum. NTD's Sam Wong has the details.
It's another busy week on the campaign trail. President Biden making appeals to voters across major battleground states. Kicking off his journey from Nevada and Arizona, the 81-year-old wrapped up the week with a fundraising stop in Texas. The president won the two western states by narrow margins in 2020, but his allies are keeping a close eye on Nevada, where Trump is leading by 3 points according to an Emerson College survey. Meanwhile, other polls are showing warning signs for Biden's popularity, most notably in Michigan and Pennsylvania, both of which he also won in the last election. A new CNN poll shows Trump is leading Biden by 8% in Michigan, while the two rivals are tied at 46% in the Keystone State. This comes as a large number of voters in both states are expressing dissatisfaction with the choices they have in the race. And in the week ahead, President Biden will continue his campaign blitz. He's slated to travel to North Carolina and New York City, where he's expected to meet with his two Democratic predecessors, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. As for former President Trump, his civil fraud case remains ongoing in New York. He's required to post a $454 million bond by March 25th while he appeals the verdict. And just today, Trump's social media firm Truth Social signed off on a merger agreement with Digital World Acquisition Corp., a shell company that helps private businesses go public. This action could boost Trump's wealth by over $3 billion, as the former president stands to be the main shareholder. Sam Wang, NTD News.
And with Trump's New York civil fraud trial, the former president today saying that he has the money needed to pay the $464 million bond. And with his media company now ready to go public, will the merger help him pay this mounting legal debt? To discuss, we had a chance to speak with legal commentator Horus Cooper. He's also the chairman of the Project 21 National Advisory Board. Horus Cooper, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Horace, in former President Trump's civil fraud case in New York, Judge Arthur Engoron issued an order on Thursday, just days before the deadline for Trump and his co-defendants to pay that $464 million judgment or secure a bond for it, to stop New York Attorney General Letitia James from collecting on that judgment pending appeal. Why do you think the judge waited so long to issue this order? Is it normal?
Well, there's been nothing really normal about this entire process. Unfortunately, the way that our federal system works, or maybe even fortunately, you're not allowed to run right into federal court to get a remedy when there are unconstitutional actions that have taken place. The particular court that Judge Engoron oversees should not have been the court that was used to make the findings with regard to these valuations. If, in fact, Judge Engoron's court was going to be used, Judge Engoron should not have assessed penalties at such a high rate. The way the system is supposed to operate, you wait until a final judgment is rendered, and then you seek out relief in federal court. This presents significant challenges, I think, for Donald Trump and his corporation.
Horace, I want to ask you about sort of the details or the substance of the order, if you will. The judge extended the court-appointed monitor's oversight of the Trump Organization's financial records for 3 years. Is it overreach, in your opinion, to have 3 years of oversight of the organization's financial records, even if the judgment is paid within that time?
Well, that would be another example of something that's unprecedented. And it looks more like an attempt to have excess penalty, not just excess fines, but excess penalties that are targeting an individual. Our Constitution has a provision for ex post facto. Governments may not single out any individual for penalties or fines or punishments merely because of who they are.
But it seemed as though the padlocks were coming on some of Trump's properties until today. He announced on Truth Social that he may have secured that $500 million to hold that off from happening. Truth Social's parent company also could complete its merger as soon as today. While Trump could not sell his shares for 6 months, could they be used as collateral for a loan to pay this judgment?
Well, absolutely they could. If the amount is as reported, nearly $3.5 billion, you're looking at some amount 7 times greater than the bond amount. That could be a sufficient amount for a surety company to use as the basis for granting the bond. But it still remains irregular that the Attorney General would seek to seize assets even before Monday.
Horus Cooper, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.